have a lot of muscles. I have a lot of skills and strengths that are in demand. And when they're in demand, what that means is you can be of service, you find satisfaction, and you get paid this thing called money for it, and a lot of money for it.
Welcome to the You Are a Lawyer podcast. Casey
Thank you.
Berman, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. So I was really excited to connect with you because, for one, you're in Hawaii. I haven't spoken with anyone in Hawaii. Fancy. And then also, you are a lawyer who doesn't work in a traditional legal role, right? You're supporting other people, other entrepreneurs. So why don't you tell us all about it? What do you do? What's a typical day like for you?
Yeah, so I am in Hawaii, and I was born and raised San Francisco, raised our family there, and a few years ago we decided just to change. So we've moved out here, and I built my businesses where I can work remotely from here. And I'm 51 and a half, so I'll just throw my age out there so you don't have to guess. But I went to law school in the 90s and came out in the dot-com days and had an in-house counsel job at a tech company in San Francisco with the dog and gummy bears in the kitchen and all that sort of stuff, right? And it was great. I loved it. Great role. Really enjoyed it. Did a lot of software licensing work. Was my primary focus. But I realized it wasn't for me. And I say this all the time. The world needs lawyers. We need good lawyers who care about their clients and so on. It just wasn't a fit for me. And so I wanted something a little more proactive, creative, and I've moved into strategy consulting and built my own businesses and so on. But what I started doing in 2008, 2009 was I started writing about this transition out of law. And I called it Leave Law Behind because I kind of left the legal industry behind. Well, it just picked up and Google picked it up and we were interviewed and people wanted coaching. I didn't even really know what that meant at the time. But we've created this whole platform to help lawyers who are unhappy and just aren't aligned with it. You know, many of us went to law school for good reasons and knew we wanted to go, and many of us didn't, right? And I was one of those who just kind of went, make my parents happy and all that sort of stuff. So we've automated a lot of stuff. So people are able to come in, get their questions answered. We have a ton of free resources on our site. And then my day-to-day involves, when it comes to Leave Law Behind, kind of working with clients, talking to them, emailing, supporting them as they look to leave their lawyer job for, you name it, operations, compliance, sales, recruiting. We've helped hundreds of lawyers just move into totally different jobs. So that's kind of a little background on me and what I do day to day.
Yeah. So I love that. Lawyers are excellent writers. I mean, whether you always enjoyed writing or just law school itself pulls it out of you, right? Yeah. You have to be able to communicate through the written word. I had a professor who used to say that words are the currency of a lawyer. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So blogging, if we called it blogging back then, you probably were just writing online stuff and people are like, oh yeah, he has this little thing he does. Did you expect it to take off, or did you expect people to resonate with it, or were you kind of criticized at first and then people started to love it, or what?
I was, yeah. If you go to leavelawbehind.com/blog, they're still out there. It's a little embarrassing to see all that old writing from 15 years ago, but it's still there. And for me, it was more cathartic. I didn't know who was going to pick it up. I didn't know how search engines work. I just wrote. It was private for a while, and then I just kind of made it public, and then it just got picked up. But yeah, I got a lot of critique from people. Why are you writing about this? And you should just stay in the law. Don't you know you can make money? What are you doing? Why are you being a diva? On and on. But then I got a lot of feedback and people wanted to reach out. The Wall Street Journal, at that time, the mainstream media was still a lot bigger than it is now, but they came and wanted to interview me, which was kind of a nice stamp of approval. But then most of all, we had people reaching out saying, again, can you help me? I liked your story. I feel the same way. I have that Sunday night anxiety. I really don't want to do this. Can you coach me? And I even had to say, coaching? What the heck is coaching? You know, so that was the real stamp of approval for me, was when people said, can you help me and I'll pay you for your time?
Yeah. Isn't that amazing when people are like, I've been looking for you. I didn't even know it. And you're like, wow. Because it's like, it is confirmation, but it's also validation. Because if you never did your part, they never could have found it. Right.
That's it. And you have to really, it's a great point. You have to really go in not expecting that result, not attached to a result, but just do the process itself, whether it's blogging or it's something else, not expecting that outcome, but kind of just throwing it out there and seeing what happens. So
yeah, absolutely. So I talk to a lot of people on this show who don't leave the law, but they might go to a different practice group or a different practice area. Had
Yeah.
you considered that? And did you do that before you decided to ultimately leave?
I did consider it. I had looked at a few things, civil litigation, before I went in house. I did think about doing something else, but I think really at that time where I wanted to move into was corporate development within the company. The CEO didn't want to let me move into that. And so I quit probably about 8 months before I got married. So, not the best idea in 2004, but it all worked out. But a lot of Leave Law Behind members do consider going to another practice area. For some, it works, or they consider going in house. For some, it works. But for a lot of them who are really unhappy, the work is the work. And the work is just mundane, it's boring. They're just not a fit for it. So there's that imposter syndrome that keeps coming through. So we have had folks, I'm going to give it another go. I'm going to try it again. I'm going to try it at a big firm. I'm going to try it at a small firm, whatever the slice and dice is. And for some, it works. But for the ones who really should be doing something else, they ultimately realize I need to get out of the law. So,
yeah. A lot of times you don't like who you are as a lawyer.
right.
Because no matter what the environment is, it's like you might get in there and you just turn on that competitive hat or that extra aggressive or whatever it is. And that, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And I feel it's a great point around identity because a lot of people have, they don't like who they are. And so they have this idea of being a lawyer. They like the part of, I'm disciplined and people think I'm smart and all the good stuff that comes with being a lawyer, but they don't like everything else, the work, the anxiety. And a lot of people who aren't really good at being a lawyer, they can fake it till they make it, which is fine. Oftentimes they don't make it though. So what takes a good lawyer to do in X minutes takes them twice as much, 3 times as much. And they're working Saturday night or they're working long days and they're getting burnt out. And they're like, why am I so tired? Why am I so frazzled? It's like, well, this work just isn't coming that easy to you. So, and not that you need to be complacent and phone it in, but a lot of times Leave Law Behind members who really find that job they love. Again, it's not like they're working 5 minutes a day, but they love it. And one last thing, people will say to me, well, Casey, there is stress and deadlines in the non-lawyer world. Like people still, and I said, of course, but they just feel more capable of handling it. The stress of a law world just freaks them out. They have to take their medication, they drink, or they just get the anxiety. When they're in the non-law world, it just aligns. So that's kind of a lot of the color around the folks that we help.
Yeah, I just put up social media this week and people ask me all the time, they're like, Kyle, I never see you working. I never see you working. And I'm like, all of these clips are me working. You don't see me stressed out, overworked, overwhelmed, burnt out, and irritated. I'm like, but no, literally me editing this is me working. You just don't get to see what you're typically used to seeing. Yeah.
Right.
So Casey, I think what you're doing is fascinating because I am a person who left law behind. I didn't know it. I started this podcast before I left working in a big law firm in the IP group. And looking back on it, it's so silly that I would talk to people about what they did outside of being a lawyer. And then I wanted to do stuff outside of being a lawyer.
That's right.
But that's how it happened.
Yeah. You're a content creator, right? There's a lot of titles that you have now that are non-lawyer, if you think about it.
I think the name of your group, Leave Law Behind, is ironic because you can never unlearn the stuff you know. Even when we bought this house, I was like, can I read the mortgage? Like, I won't get all of it, but like, can I read it?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's funny that education, it's probably like being a doctor. If you see someone hurt, you'll always know what to do, even if you don't choose to use it. So we're kind of special like that.
No, we are. It's a great point. And that's something that we really try to get across to people as they come to our site. And a lot of people, when they come, they log in, they want to be confidential. They don't want their bosses to know. They're feeling down about it. Like, oh my God, I put so much into this identity and this profession. Do I really want to leave? But that's one thing that we really try to impart on them is that you're really not leaving the law. And here's a number of reasons why. One, you're always going to be a lawyer, whether you pay your license dues or not. You always are going to be smart. You can bring it up at a cocktail party. Someone can, oh my God, you're a lawyer. You always have that cachet. It's always there, right? The second one is you have these transferable skills. It's not only writing, like you said, but it's being strategic, the risk mitigation, the adult in the room, putting out the fire, on and on and on. And so those are skills that you always have. And what's great about it, those skills are in demand in the non-law world. They always have, but particularly now with technology and AI, ironically, all of this new technology and AI is really only highlighting how important the human skills are. interpersonal relationships, strategy. I mean, this is all over LinkedIn. It's all over in the articles, but there's a real truth to it. And so I tell lawyers that you have such skills that are in demand in so many other roles. It's our duty to convince them because they're skeptical that they can do it. We have to help them overcome that fear. But once they're able to overcome that fear, like you said, they really realize I have a lot of muscles, I have a lot of skills and strengths that are in demand. And when they're in demand, what that means is you can be of service, you find satisfaction, and you get paid this thing called money for it, and a lot of money for it, right? So in the non-billable hour model. So it's it becomes a win-win once unhappy attorneys can kind of overcome that fear and start taking these baby steps, which is what we ask them to do.
Yeah, and it's great that you're available to kind of push them to think beyond, because we'll always know how to mitigate any risk, which means we should take more risk. I will always tell people that. I'm like,
I love it.
I promise you know how to handle it. And if you don't, you have 5 people in your phone who can handle it. Like, I promise you. I promise
it's okay.
you.
And really, the risk you're thinking about, whatever it is, this is going to happen, this bad happened, I'll get fired. If I move to a job or I'll burn a bridge, it's likely not going to happen. That's the thing. So
yeah, absolutely. So I am a business owner. I did not anticipate it, right? I started the podcast and then I monetized that, but then people asked me to help them launch podcasts. And then I would email them and they couldn't get back to me because they had 7 email addresses. So then I had to create strategy and I'd be like, let me do your onboarding. You don't know what you're doing. I did it, and you know what I mean? And so when I tell you I can't turn off my creativity, I literally can't. And it's amazing. Did you encounter that when you started Leave Law Behind and then it kind of just kept rolling?
Encounter all the ideas coming, you mean?
Creativity and ideas.
Yeah. I may not be as creative as you, but you get to this point where there's all these opportunities and all of these ideas. My business partner who came on in 2015, I mean, he's a former attorney, he's on the East Coast, and we'll just sit around and talk about ideas. How can we market it? What email sequence can we do? What stories can we talk about? Should we talk about how lawyers are procrastinating? Should we talk about how you're never too old to make a change? Should we talk? All of these ideas start coming in, and it's beautiful. It's great. It's a little overwhelming, and you have to find some sort of tool to map out your content or your project and so on. But it's a lot of fun. It gets the juices flowing. It gives you that purpose. It's your own. You have that sense of ownership. And again, this is a blanket statement, so there is creativity within law, but you kind of move beyond the templates. You move beyond the strict sort of rigidity or guardrails, which is required in the law. Don't get me wrong. You're in a different sandbox now. And you're in a sandbox where things are a little more ambiguous. Things are nascent. They're just beginning. And so you have a lot more permission to just try stuff and try new ideas and to throw out a new, and not only that, but to see, like you did, like, people aren't getting back to me. They have too many emails. Is there a way where I can connect this? And I'll charge money for it or I won't. But is there a way for me to kind of help here? And you go from there. So we've had a ton of, over the years, ability to be creative, to tell stories, just to say, here's the story I want to tell. And hopefully it'll sell. Hopefully I'll make money. Hopefully it'll engage people. And if it doesn't, we'll try again. But I think that creativity is one of the main reasons why I really started this and left the law. I just wasn't able to be that creative as a lawyer.
Yeah. It's so funny because even when I look back at pictures of myself, and I enjoyed working in IP law, it's one of those sillier, you know what I mean, looser, kind of more fun. I mean, we had patent attorneys we would work with, but like my group was having a great time. But I just looked different. And I think I had on that lawyer hat. And I just was, you know what I mean? It was just the look. I
know it well.
My head told me it was oppressed, but I'm like, was I oppressed? I may have just been regimented, right? And so now it's just so much different. So Casey, did you ever expect to own a business? Had you ever thought about that before law school?
I had. My father, growing up, he had investment banking where he would help people buy and sell companies. So I saw my dad was not a company man. He had his own business. And so that was something that was ingrained in me. And I kind of came of age professionally with the dot-com boom in San Francisco. And so startup, entrepreneur, founder, and so on, bootstrapping your company. So that is something that I grew up with as a kid and also as a kid professionally. So that's something that I always wanted to do. I think for me, I had started a clothing company early on and had no idea how to do inventory. So you find out what you're good at and also what you're not good at. And for me, it was services, creating content, digital in nature. That's something that I really gravitated to and was something that I was able to manage. And then all of these tools over the past 20 years have come out to just help you run a business, whether it's a Shopify, whether it's a platform, whether it's a podcast platform, merchant accounts, Stripe, on and on and on. And so it just made it a lot easier. But the entrepreneurial spirit is something I've always had. I always like creating, always connecting. And even when I had a job for a while as a technical W-2 employee, I was just kind of always thinking as my own business owner, even though I was in the company, right? Which I love, which was great. But yeah, I've always wanted to do something like this.
Yeah. Okay, well, so you were ahead of the curve. One of my favorite books, The 21 Secrets of Self-Made Millionaires, he says to always think of yourself as unemployed, no matter who signs your check. Right. And it sounds like you've always done that.
Yes, most recently, but I did have a job for 5-7 years where I learned strategy consulting, which is something I continue to do on my own. But yeah, I mean, I definitely had that W-2 job, but I always had something on the side. Leave law behind, I built up kind of as a side gig. But I love that. Yeah, I did always think of myself as sort of unemployed in a certain part. So I like that.
It's a way of just having responsibility for it. You know that you're like in control of the actions. So yeah.
And I want everyone to kind of think of that way. I mean, I know we all have paychecks and we all have the security of a paycheck, which a lot of lawyers believe in, and that's why they stay in the law. But we see how fragile that can be as well. So the security of a W-2 job, not to fearmonger or anything, but just to let people know that security isn't always as it seems. There's a bit of an illusion there oftentimes, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the fun things about it being 2025 when we're recording this. Looking at options are a lot more celebrated, right? We always had that one friend, that one relative who was like, I'm not working or I'm running my own business, but they were the exception. And now it's like, it's kind of shifted where now we're like, oh, that's all you do? Oh, okay. You just go to work.
Yeah.
And that was not the way. Yeah.
Well, you're totally right. And I remember Steve Jobs, and I think in the early 90s, early 2000s, I think 90s, he was the head of Pixar and Apple at the same time. And Dorsey from Twitter was the head of Twitter and I think Square at the same time. Now, that's not scalable, and they probably never saw their families and so on. So, but I looked at that and I said, interesting. Wall Street, the world, not just me, but the world is allowing Steve Jobs to essentially have two gigs. So if at that level we're okay with someone doing that, why can't the rest of us start a side gig? And again, it's got to be kosher and it's got to be legit with the firm, and there's no issues, competitive issues or anything like that. But why can't we also do that? And again, with the tools and everything, it's just so much easier to do now.
Yeah, and it speaks to your brain being in demand, right? Yeah. You were saying your skills, but I kept hearing your brain, and it's like that's the part you can't replicate. That's the magic.
Well, you bring up a really good point, because I say skills and strengths, but I often say they're invisible. And a job is sort of like a container that gives form to these invisible strengths. So it really is your brain in the sense that if you think about being the adult in the room, writing, strategy consulting, risk mitigation, we see the result of it, but the actual skill in a way is invisible. It's in your brain. And so a job gives that form in this matrix reality world. However you think about it, it gives shape to it. So then the question is, well, what container do you want? And some people want, well, I want to be a lawyer and this I would do great, or I want to be a doctor. I think for people like you and me, and I think many other unhappy lawyers out there, they want a different container. They've got all these skills, and some of these skills are leaving on the table. They're not able to use 9 to 5, 8 to 6 as a lawyer. And so our goal really is to show them there are other containers out there where those muscles that are atrophying a bit, your creative muscles, storytelling, whatever it is, here are jobs, these containers where you can use them and actually get paid for them.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really, really good. So we were talking before we started recording, and I was like, man, it's 7 a.m. in Hawaii. What are you doing most of the time? Is it the consulting calls? Do you still participate in them, or are you mostly upper management?
Yeah. So I have a cup of coffee, get the family out. My dog is staring at me. So my first priority, unless I have a call, I get settled and I have a nice office and kind of look out and hear the birds and so on. But then it varies. That's what's great about it. Actually, not on many calls, thankfully. I'm not back to back meetings. I've kind of created it where I'm able to sit fingers to keyboard and write something. A lot of the writing I do is actually me walking or outside talking, voice to text, and then I edit it later. I don't know. When I get fingers on the keyboard, I'm worried about typos. My perfectionism comes in. So I just do a brain dump and stream of consciousness, and then I come back and I edit it, and I find that's a lot more idea generating for me. But yeah, it'll be involved with talking with clients, getting on the phone with them, getting on Zoom with them, whether it's a new client. But we've automated a lot. So a lot of what we have is an online program. They come through, they can do it as self-paced. I come in with a call or an email. A lot of it is just responding to emails or let me take a look at your resume and doing a quick turn on that. So it's really varied. Kind of besides the dog walk, I think every day is pretty different for me, which I like. So
yeah, that's pretty cool. I am similar. Wednesdays are the days where I record, but I have been realizing that everything takes more time than I thought. And that was my biggest
totally
shift after leaving the law firm. I was like, man, I can crank something out in 15 minutes. And it's like, you did because you had to. But now when I sit down to prepare for clients, I'm like, no, I need 90 minutes to just think. What happens is I sit down and start working and then my brain goes. And it's like, well, this was the first time you've sat all day.
Right.
So now I sit down for 90 minutes. I just put on music and start dancing around the office. And then I just let my brain go. And now it's like, and you're not technically procrastinating from doing the work you were actually supposed to be doing. That was my biggest shift since leaving the law firm. But I also carried over billable hours. That was how I knew I needed to hire my first assistant. If I do anything for more than 8 hours, I'm like, nope, I'm hiring someone else to do it. And so it's pretty loose, but I will put on like the Pomodoro timer and I'll look at it at the end of the month. Like, what am I spending all my time on? Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I should focus on that more. That's very interesting you do that. I had a moment where I think I said, yeah, I got 20 minutes. I'll fire this out. And besides a quick email or something here and there, I said, what am I talking about? I'm not going to get this done in 19 minutes. I need to sit. I need to think with it. I need to come back with it the next day. This is something more important than just, a quick email or something. So that's something I've had to learn too.
Yeah. Or you'll get it done, but you can't send it because you haven't proofed it 3 times.
That's right. I haven't proofed it. There's also another idea in there that I'm moving too quickly, so it's not coming to me. So I'm just going to wait and I'm going to think. And usually in the evening, another walk or go out on the beach or something, and it hits you. And I'm like, that's what I wanted to add to it. And so it's just understanding your cadence and not being too much in a rush. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have this setup. You got the headphones, you got the microphone, all of it. Do you have your own podcast as well, or is this just for work calls?
This I do as a guest on podcasts. So yeah, I do a number of shows. This is for me to be guests on podcasts. Yeah. No, I admire people who have their own. Doing your own podcast is great. It's a lot of work, as you know better than I do.
It is a lot of work. Yeah, it is, but it is it opened up everything because I did this for 2 years. And then I was like, well, if I can talk to a microphone, I can talk to a camera. And then I started doing book reviews on YouTube. And then from there, it just snowballed. And people were like, how do you do that, but you're working a day job? And I'm like, oh, how do you do that, but you have a baby? And so people were fascinated in the story and the storytelling. And then they were like, can you do it for me? Can you do it for me? And I was like, yeah, I can. Actually, yeah, I sure can. Yeah. So it was really fun. I think it's incredible that I can do this with a law degree. Like, it still kind of surprises me because sometimes I will mention it on accident and people are like, oh, wow. But they're not impressed because I'm a lawyer. They're impressed because they're like, you chose to do something else? That's pretty awesome.
It's not that you have a law degree. It's that you have a law degree, but then you chose to do this. And I think that's what, a lot of lawyers look at and say, really, I'm going to go from being a high and mighty lawyer to being a career coach or being a YouTuber. And the point is, yes, you are. And you probably make more money and you have flexible hours and you'll be more creative and so on and so forth. Right. And so for an unhappy lawyer. And so that's the shift that people need to make, particularly nowadays with all the technology that, for example, going on YouTube and creating content. It's not just teenagers who are doing it. There's real businesses there, viable businesses, great content, really helping people. And you enjoy what you do day to day. So it's a totally different world. I love it.
Totally different world, but it just requires you to find out what you actually want to do versus what you decided to do. Right. And so when I think about
That's
it,
right.
I went to an arts elementary school where I was making ceramic birds and I was painting a self-portrait in the third grade.
Yeah.
It wasn't cute, but that was my foundation, was artistic, creative things. And so it's actually a lot easier. My mom will tell me, she's like, well, this actually makes more sense than when we saw you going to the big high-rise office. I can actually see my daughter when you're doing this more than I could see you doing that. You know, we respected it, but
Oh, that's so sweet. I
yeah.
love it.
So,
I love it.
yeah.
And when you say, finding out what you want to do, the way we really focus on that is what we call the unique genius at Leave Law Behind, which is your skills and strengths, your brain. And so going back to what you're really good at and then letting that take shape and letting jobs appear. I mean, look at what you did, right? You went back and I don't know if you formally did a unique genius analysis, but by doing what you did, the creativity and things came up. And then what happened? A job out of nowhere appeared. You created your own job. I don't even know what the title is. So I just encourage everybody, if they're unhappy being a lawyer, take a step back. There's plenty of free resources on our site. Check it out. But the unique genius, what are your skills and strengths? It's like, if you're a sports fan like I am, it's like a scouting report for an athlete. What do they really do well? And then get that down and then see what jobs are calling for, what that fit is. So you kind of lead with that authentic self.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So, Casey, I have two more questions. The first one is, do lawyers have permission to enjoy their jobs? Are they allowed?
They are 100% allowed. They should be. All of our clients, they'll say, well, I want to do this job or maybe that job, whether it's lawyer or non-lawyer. And I say, yeah, I know, but I'm really focused. I want you also to enjoy it. I want you to enjoy it. So lawyers have 100% permission to enjoy their lawyer job or non-lawyer job if they move into it, but 100% to enjoy their lawyer job. I find that enjoyment happens when there's that alignment between your skills and strengths and what you do well. There's really four. One is that alignment, skills and strengths, lifestyle. Do they pay you what you enjoy, and can you wear jeans in the office? All of that. Is there purpose and meaning with your job? And the fourth one is subject matter expertise. Do you enjoy the actual work itself? Out of those four levers, which we stress, the main one is, do your skills and strengths really match the job description? Are they calling for what you're good at? If so, yes, you have every right to enjoy your job. And usually it happens through that way. If you're having trouble enjoying your job, it's either a mindset shift that you just need to find a way to do it, or there's just a mismatch between what you do well and what the job calls for.
Yeah. Okay. And then my last question. So the You Are a Lawyer audience is made up of a lot of young lawyers, 5 years practicing or less, or law students. What would you say to them about what they can do with their law degrees?
So I think since the beginning of time, they said you can do anything with a law degree. And it actually wasn't true, because you can't. You need to learn other things, and people would go to law school and then they would get stuck. But I want to reframe it now that if you're in law school, continue, get your degree. Don't let me cause you to doubt that at all. And even young lawyers, what I would say though is that there is so much that you can do. If you want to stay in the law, find a place, a container, a company, a law firm that is open to innovating. Maybe business development is where you're good at, because AI is going to take a lot of the young associates' tasks soon, right? So stay within the law, but find an area that's not stodgy, but that's innovative and that will allow you to grow with your skills and strengths. Or get the law degree, keep practicing for a while, but I would start doing coffee chats, informational interviews with people, content creators, people in sales, whatever it is that your skills and strengths seem to align with. Just get coffee with them, ask them about their day-to-day, because who knows, that could be something that you could ultimately move into.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's really great. I think between Leave Law Behind and then the You Are a Lawyer podcast and all these other resources, young lawyers and law students are just able to just dream. So they're not looking forward to that desk job with their head down and working the 85 hours. They're actually looking forward to making an impact, and I love that for them.
Right.
I love it.
Oh, no, it's so possible. It's completely possible. And the law degree, again, the cachet of a lawyer. You're smart, you have that rigor, you've got that focus, that'll continue. And so there's that identity that will help you. It seems like kind of touchy feely. Oh yeah, right. But that identity is extremely important in the world. People will still respect it, and I think will always. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Casey. This was fantastic, and I'm excited to share it with the audience. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. It's an honor, and really appreciate you spreading all this awareness. So thanks for having me.
Of course.